I am Consumer Tech Review, and today, Yunzii and Keynovo sent over this package right here. Yunzii on the front. Let's get this thing open. And obviously, if you want to check out the keyboard we're about to unbox, there are Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links. This looks like it could be a competitor to AKKO directly, which Yunzii's partnered with? Something like that, I don't know, but it looks really, really good. Opening this box up, there we got a lot of Keynovo branding. So this looks like a desk mat. Then we have a bunch of USB-C cables, a bunch of stuff in here, and then the board itself right here. Now, I looked this up. I looked at a very small amount of specs and really overall the price. This is priced at $150, but let's get this out. I am actually really excited about this one. Okay, so overall packaging is pretty dang cool. Yeah, I like that branding. All right, so opening this up, Keynovo everywhere, but a partnership with Yunzii. And then pulling this out. Okay, right away, pretty heavy considering, but again, this is a bigger keyboard, a 1800 layout, which I absolutely love. Very high quality dust cover. I never use these, but if you guys do use them, or if you have a keyboard collection that you wanna set somewhere, that's a good thing. But right away, okay, pretty heavy. The one thing I'm gonna say right away is just from feeling it, it feels kind of hollow. That's pretty hollow. That's pretty hollow. Okay, but let's keep going through the box. Quick start guide, and a keycap puller, switch puller, some switches. So these are some sort of yellow switch. Very interesting. Are these Gaterons? Yes, so these are Gateron yellows, 5-pin switches. We like that. Very smooth. Everyone knows about these switches by now, so that's good. Then we have a coiled cable. This is a little baby coil right here. This is very, very small. However, it's nice that it includes that. And then we have some extra keycaps, which is probably if we want to just change the way it looks a little bit. All right, so let's check this out. So the first thing I love about this is the layout. 1800 is such a good layout. So it's basically, you take a TKL, you take the number pad, and you push it over, and you basically just remove this section of a TKL, but you still keep the arrow keys. We have this very cool, which is actually slightly textured and raised up a little bit. If you can see that it's slightly raised up. Oh, I just saw that in the overhead. That is absolutely awesome. So that looks like this is cold. I think it's metal, and this is like a weight, I think maybe. That looks so freaking nice. I'm gonna be straight up. That looks so good. That looks like legitimate gold. That looks really good. Okay, but on the back of it, this is all cold. I think that's plastic. I think this is metal. I'm not sure. Then we have an indentation there. I don't know what that's for. Rubber on these edges does feel like nice rubber. We are gonna get into this board, absolutely, because, well, it's gonna need some modding. Okay, but right away, let's start taking these keycaps off. I wanna check these keycaps out. So, okay, right away, these are pretty thick, nice keycaps. Now remember, so this is $150, and these keycaps, these are actually pretty nice keycaps. They're nice and thick. They feel good on top, cherry profile, or I believe they're cherry profile. And if they're not cherry profile, then they're very similar to cherry profile. But right away, let's get a little bit of a sound test. Not bad, but the stabilizers. A little bit of a tick. A little bit of a tick on this one as well. Those two are pretty good. A little bit of a tick on the space bar. That could be corrected pretty easily. Those are pretty good. Enter, this enter's got a little bit of a tick, but overall the feel is quite good. Now, let's actually check something because this actually sounds really good, and I wanna see if these are factory lubed switches or not. Okay, pretty difficult to take out, so a tighter PCB. But yeah, it's hot-swappable with 3 and 5-pin switches, but it is pretty difficult to take out. That's kind of weird. All right, so getting the switch out. Now we're gonna get our switch opener, uses a cherry style opener. All right, so opening the switch up. Yes, so this is what I thought. These are, looks like factory lube, definitely not hand lubed, but these are factory lube. So they're basically trying to compete with the Gateron G Pro switches, which I don't believe these are because I believe that's only Keychron. I think they have like an exclusive deal with that. So these are Gateron yellows that have been factory lubed. So that is a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing if you want to hand lube your own switches. However, out of the box, I mean, sounding like that, it's pretty good. The only thing we can hear is, it just doesn't sound substantial. And that again is because, yeah. All right, but the overall look and design looks really nice. The typing feel is nice, but it doesn't feel solid. It doesn't feel solid. And if you pick this up, it's not like AKKO, guys. This is, let's actually take a look here. you can see along the bottom, bigger gap right here, bigger gap right here, bigger gap right here. The fit and finish just is not quite as nice. And this plastic, it's a pretty dang cheap plastic. However, let's give it the benefit of the doubt. Let's mod it a little bit and see how good this thing can be. We're gonna keep those factory lubed Gateron yellow switches. Let's get into it. The one thing I can say right away is I love that there is screws along here. There's only a few of them, and that might be one of the reasons why it's not quite as even around this. All right, so getting all of this unscrewed. All right, now that should be all unscrewed. Does it just come apart? Maybe some of these aren't as unscrewed as I thought. All right, all 6 screws are out. Let's see if we can pull this apart. Okay, so the top piece comes off. Okay, so this is interesting. We've got a couple things here. So this looks right away. This top piece, you can see, it's actually fairly thick, but the actual like quality of the plastic is just not like AKKO's, Keychron's. It's just a little bit of a more like, you know, kind of cheaper plastic. All right, but let's get into it. So first of all, gasket mounted with these little rubber pieces, rubber tabs, which I absolutely love. So you can see it's gasket mounted all the way around it. Now let's pull this up, and there we got the ribbon cable. So this is using a ribbon cable. So we're gonna try to take this out very carefully. Not a big fan of ribbon cables comparatively. However, this is all good and fine. Okay, so now we see the PCB, the back of it. We just got a few screws back here, and then we have these rubber. The rubber thing is nice because you can easily take them off, although there is not another plate option for this that I know of, so that doesn't really matter too much. The rubber is not gonna add as much of movement, although that doesn't really matter. However, the interesting thing is right here. So this PCB actually has like room, but they just cover it with that, which is cool. I like that, but it's interesting. So this is probably a PCB that's used on multiple different boards, which is quite interesting. The other interesting thing is that we have, looks like the same rubbers on the outside in between the plate and the PCB. You can see there, that's the exact same rubber as here. So that's actually a pretty high quality thing. That's good if you want a dampened sound. You can see that's dampened just with the plate. Pretty dang dampened. However, the case definitely needs something to make it a little bit heavier, to make it a little bit thicker and nicer. But then we also see this is pretty heavy comparatively to what it should feel like, and that's because of this. This is a weight. Yeah, this is metal. So this gray part's metal, this light gray is not. And then we have this very cool, I love this. This is a really, really nice touch. I really do like that. One click to infinity, kind of a space theme, which I do like. All right, but let's get to modding it. We're gonna put some stuff in this case. Let's do it. All right, getting our self-healing board just so that we don't mess anything up on the desk. Most of this looks like it's gonna be pretty simple because we're not upgrading the switches. Let's take a look at these stabilizers really quick. Before we get into modding the case, we're gonna just pop this space bar off. I will say I'm impressed with the keycaps. So if that's one of your concerns, these are nice keycaps. I would keep these. So looks like we just got pretty basic, you can see they're pretty basic plate mounted stabilizers. Just from the color, although I will say, very tight. Actually, not incredibly tight, but pretty dang tight. Not quite as tight as AKKO's purple and their new pink stabilizers that are plate mounted. And then we have this, more of this rubber here that I'm gonna pull up. It's very tight in there. I believe I can pull this up without taking anything out. Let me just pop this switch out. Now, the nice thing with this is actually a really nice touch for modders. This may be on purpose or it may not be, but when you have it like this, you can actually pull it out through the top. Even if it's hard, you can pull it out through the top. And basically what that means is if you don't want to take every switch off of your board to pull the plate and PCB apart, you can now take out these stabilizers right here. Now all of these you'll be able to take out. However, the space bar, typically if there is dampening between here, it will go in between here, which means you can't pull that wire out right there. So this is actually a really nice touch for modding. So if you want to keep your switches on there, but mod your stabilizers, all I gotta do is push those little pins in. These are pretty tight, so you're gonna need something else to push those pins in and then pull up, and then there we go. You can take this out without taking off all those switches, which is a fantastic thing. That's actually a really good thing. And this is something that AKKO doesn't always do. So we can see here, let's open these up, get kind of a very close angle on this. If we open this up very lightly greased. I mean, there's barely anything on there, which is actually a good thing because the stabilizer sounded good. So if there's not very much grease on it, that means the stabilizers are pretty good. Although I will say, you can see in the bottom of this, these actually need to be clipped. These stabilizers need to be clipped. So we're gonna go through, we're gonna clip these, and then we are going to re-lube everything, and we'll be back in 2 seconds. 3, 2. All right, guys, we clipped them, and then we lubed them. Now, I just lubed the stems. I did not lube the housing with Krytox 205 G0, so that's what I did. And then we use dielectric grease on the bars. Not too much, don't go overboard, and this is how they came out. I didn't do these, okay? I didn't do these over here. Honestly, just too much work, too many stabilizers to do. But this is how they sound. I'm gonna hold it up to the mic. That camera's gonna get it. There we go. Those actually sound really, really good. So I'm very happy with that. Fantastic, great. So just with doing those very simple, I mean, 15 minutes, and you got yourself some really nice stabilizers. They're tight in the board, so you don't even need to band-aid them. You can see they don't really move. Pretty good, very nice and tight. I think overall they're high quality stabilizers, but they're just not keeping up with the times. I mean, having to clip stabilizers on a $150 keyboard at this point is weird, but it's fine because they actually sound really good after just doing, I mean, you don't need to Holy mod these or anything. Just clip them and lube them and you're good to go. All right, now let's move on to the case, which is right here. Okay, we're gonna do a couple things. Number one, we are gonna actually end up taking off all the keycaps and the switches, and we're gonna keep this rubber dampener or this silicone dampener between the plate and the PCB, but we're gonna add a single piece of PE foam, make it just a little bit more creamy, because this is gonna be a very quiet build, so I want it to be a little bit more creamy, have a little bit more of a personality. All right, so in the case, we're gonna use a few things. This is just a little bit of butyl rubber I have left. I need to order some more, but we're just gonna put this right in the case where we can fit it. And then we're gonna use this EVA foam. I have two different thicknesses, this thickness and then a thinner one. So we're just gonna do this. This is really just to weight it down a little bit. So let's get to work cutting this stuff. It'll fit in there right there. Now again, before we start filling this up, we have to check actually where this is going to sit, and it sits pretty high up there, I think. Yeah, so it actually sits right on these right here. So we actually have quite a bit of space, probably to about right there. So we can really fill this up, which we are going to do. Absolutely, we're gonna do that. So to begin this, I'm going to use these thicker style foam. We're gonna cut out a piece for the top, which is about how long this is. So that fits in there almost perfectly. I almost did that perfect. But here you can use a lot of different things. If you want to increase the weight, add some pennies to it, penny mod, really whatever you want here. And then we're gonna add a little cutout for that cable. We're gonna check where it's gonna be. So it's gonna sit right there on the board. On the foam, do a little cutout and then a longer cutout that way, just like that. And then that's gonna be able to, we're gonna fit this delicate ribbon cable through. I hate working with these ribbon cables. We're gonna fit this through gently, trying to be as gentle as I can, and pulling it out, and then it should fit through just like that, which looks absolutely perfect. And then we're gonna kind of force this down. Man, could that be any more perfect? I don't think so. That is so good. All right, now we're gonna see if this will fit in the bottom of this piece. Again, basically perfect. Now, if you have this high enough, because there is this section right here, I don't know what that section is for. Maybe that's for, actually I have no idea what that section's for. It looks like it's connected to, maybe connected to that weight down there. I'm not sure, but we're gonna place this in there. That works basically perfectly. And then we're gonna put more in here and we're gonna try it. So we're just gonna try this out. We're gonna push that down so we don't hurt it. And then setting this down in there. Yeah, it doesn't set down. So that's why we try it first. Looks like the top is gonna sit down, but on the bottom it's just too high. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna cut out for this because that's what's making it too high. And then we're gonna place that in there. That works great. Now, what I did with these is I actually made them a little bit thicker. So this piece kind of just sets in there nicely. But I made this because you hear that. If we take these, this kind of moves around a little bit. So what I'm doing is kind of forcing this in there to kind of keep this. You can hear the difference when we put both of these together. And without them, it moves around a lot. So we're kind of shoving these in there. And then we'll do a little one in there. Kind of shoving these in there to keep this piece from moving. That seems like a bad design to me. So we're gonna kind of shove this in there. That's why I love working with EVA foam. It's so malleable and it's so easy to cut. So if you want the easiest thing to work with, EVA foam, get it at Michael's or any kind of store like that, or Amazon links below to all of this, including the keyboard. All right, then we're gonna do a small sliver right in this section. See if we can shove this in there, fit it in there. Very, very nice. All right, that looks fantastic. Now we're gonna see if this will fit down in there. If it can, it's gonna be so good, guys. It's gonna be very dampened. Haven't done a dampened build in a while. It's still coming up a little bit on the bottom. That's very depressing. But you know what? We're going to try it. It looks like the foam will go down a little bit. Obviously, that'll change the feeling of the board, but it'll just make it seem a little bit more solid, which I think is what this board needs. So we're gonna just try it anyway. I'm gonna go for it. If we need to redo it, fine. But we're gonna go through it. All right, reconnecting the ribbon cable. Make sure this is pulled out, this little piece is pulled out. Then, my least favorite part of this entire build, can't stand working with ribbon cables. We're going to put this in. All right, I believe that is in. However, especially with a cable like this, we have to test it before we start putting everything back together. With a lot of keyboards, I don't actually test them, but with this one, because this cable is one of those ooey gross cables, we do have to test it. It's like a must. And plug it in. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why we test. All right, unplug it. After much trouble, we got it obviously working. As you can see, the RGB is on and everything is working. We tested it out, it's all working well. So we're gonna unplug this now. I will say, to get it through that foam, we had to remove the actual board that is the USB-C, and then we had to plug it into this, and it has to be perfect, how ribbon cables do, but just understand that when you take that off, it may take you a few attempts. Definitely test it before you put it back together, but let's get to it. Now that it's all tested, now that it's worked, we have to then force this down somehow. But I think what we're gonna do, wait, before we do all that, we have to take all the keycaps off and the switches off. I don't know how I forgot about that, but I did. So we're gonna take all of the keycaps and switches off, and then we're gonna put that PE layer under that silicone, and we're gonna leave that in there. All of the keycaps and all of the switches are off now, guys. There was about a bajillion screws, probably I think 9 on the back of the PCB and plate. So now that we have all those screws off, you're gonna have to take those off as well. Now we can see here we have that silicone, which is very, very nice. This is a very nice piece of silicone. That is such an awesome thing, especially if you wanna dampen sound, which I think actually goes really well with these switches. So we're gonna continue on with that, but again, we're gonna put a layer of PE foam. Now, we got some PE foam right here, but this is a 2-layer. And a lot of times if we're gonna mount a keyboard with PE foam, you do 2 layers. But because we already have this in here, we're just gonna do 1 layer. So we're gonna take our scissors and we're gonna cut this just into 1 layer. Actually, we might be able to tear this. Perfect. All right, now we're gonna cut this to the width. We're gonna use this side, it's a little bit better. Cut this to the width, and then we're gonna cut it to the width right here. All right, now that that's all cut, we're gonna move this to up here, and then we're gonna cut out the stabilizers where those go. And to do this, I'm gonna pull back this silicone, we're gonna lay it down on the plate, and then I'm gonna cut directly onto the plate. It's fine. It's the back side of this. So pretty simple, just cut out those stabilizers. All right, and then these little pieces, we're actually gonna keep those and we're gonna cut them into small little squares and we're gonna put them where the stabilizers switches go. You can leave those out, it doesn't make a huge difference, but for this build, we're gonna do it because it's just so easy. All right, so now what we're gonna do is take your plate and we're gonna lay this down on the plate in the correct spots, make sure everything lines up properly, and it should look something like that. Now, interestingly enough here, this is something that AKKO has done that I just noticed. You can see right here, we have holes for screw-in stabilizers. So it looks like this is compatible with screw-in stabilizers that are gonna be PCB mounted rather than plate mounted. Now these plate mounts are already pretty good, so I wouldn't say you need to, but for modding, that's pretty cool. So yeah, the only bad thing about modding this is overall, it's pretty fun and easy to mod. The only thing that I don't like is that ribbon cable. All right, but let's get to doing this, modding this. So put the silicone back on. Make sure, again, this is all lined up correctly and place it down. There we go. Now you're gonna get a switch and you're just gonna lock it in by putting a switch into the top. Because they are 5-pin, they go in pretty easily. But now we are going to screw plate and PCB back together with all those 1 million screws. Make sure everything sticks together all nicely. All those are screwed together now. We're going to cut up, again, these little tiny squares, then just kind of stick those in there, then stick in your switch, and then just put all your switches in, and we are good to go. And guys, the very last switch, there we go. Now keycap time, or actually, let's put this together, make sure everything fits, and just a little side note, I thought this was built into this right here, but it's actually, you can literally just push it out, and it's literally just a piece of foam. That is very cool for customizing. So actually for modding, even though it had that ribbon cable, it's really fun to mod. This is actually a really fun keyboard to mod. I'm impressed. All right, we're gonna flip this around and then we're gonna try screwing it back together. We're gonna torque it down a little bit. It's gonna need a little bit of assistance, but that's okay. I wish that they had put, instead of 1, 2, and 3 across the bottom, I wish that they had put 1, 2, 3, 4. I think that would have made it a little bit nicer of a fit and finish, just adding a little bit more screws and a little bit more screw holes. All right, so it fit together, and we do have a little bit of, you can see a little bit of bulging there. It's not too bad though. This probably is the biggest section right here. However, it might be worth it. Also, this feels way better just in hand. I'm just gonna say that. So I like what we did to it already, but let's start putting these keycaps on. All right, guys, and the last keycap, the escape key, there we go. Now, we see how this thing is after a slight bit of modding. It is quite a bit heavier already, but we're gonna clear this table off, see how this thing is. All right, here is the keyboard looking fine like it did when it came in, just absolutely. It's actually a very pretty colorway, and this adds a lot, guys. This really does add a lot right there. I like that a lot. But let's open the desk mat that I think matches it. Let's see. And again, if you wanna check out any of the stuff, the keyboard itself, linked below. Also, any of the stuff that I use to mod it will also be linked below. All right, opening this up. So a black base looks like, yes. Okay, and ooh, wow, that is awesome looking. The overhead is not quite capturing it perfectly. This is a very big desk mat, but look at that. That looks really, really good. So let's actually set this on here. Oh, that looks fantastic. Okay, but not all of that. They also sent a ton of these cables over. So we're gonna check out these. We've got a white one, so the aviator, a smaller aviator, but I don't know how much these are. So these could be a really good deal. There we go, guys. Not the best aviator cable in the world. However, I don't know how much these are. These could be a really good deal. I would probably pay 25 bucks for that. That would probably be my max, but I would say a good price would be around like 20. And a few other colors, I believe. A muted pink on white, another muted pink, but on blue. Ooh, and then a white on gray. No, we're gonna have to switch it to this one. All right, there we got the gray on the white cable here. I think that looks super good on this. And then the last one, which I'm assuming is gonna be like gray on gray or blue on gray. So a white on blue. So we have white on white, white on gray, pink on blue, pink on white, blue on white. But guys, we don't care about that, okay? We care about the board. I'm gonna get my initial impressions. Ooh, very good. Muted, but that one layer of PE foam did so much to give it character. And in fact, I'm surprised how much it's creamy. Like, it actually sounds very creamy. That sounds so good, guys. That actually sounds ridiculously good. I was honestly expecting, when I started modding this, I wasn't expecting to like absolutely love this. However, this keyboard is really cool and it's awesome to mod. The only thing that I don't like is two complaints that I would say if they fix these, it would be an amazing keyboard, would be if they added more screw holes on the bottom and got rid of that ribbon cable and made it a little bit easier to detach and attach. But besides that, this keyboard is really, really cool. The keycaps are nice. There's some printing issues when you take them off, but the actual feeling and printing when they're on the board, you don't really notice kind of around the edges. You have those kind of where the printing kind of stops. Overall, do I recommend this keyboard for 150 bucks? Absolutely. This is a great board and a really fun board to mod, basically just minimally to make it sound. Let's put it up here before we get a full sound test at the end of the video. Obviously, again, if you want to check it out, Amazon links below for the US, UK, Canada, and international links, but let's get just a little bit of a listen. Woo! This is gonna be going on my desk, guys, absolutely. Also, B-roll right here showing the RGB on. Obviously, the RGB is gonna be dampened a little bit because we put that PE foam layer over it, so it's not gonna be as bright, but yeah, it does have RGB, and it is quite bright. I know that from testing it when turning it on. The actual RGB elements are very bright, but it's gonna be a little bit dimmed here. But yeah, take a listen to the full sound test of the IF98 by Yunzii and Keynovo. Also check out the desk mat, the coiled cables. All right, take a listen to the full sound test, and 3, 2, 1, take a listen.